And like I mentioned, in a short while from now, the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi will make the rare address to a joint meeting of Congress. The same day, President Joe Biden and First Lady Jill Biden host him for a state dinner. We'll take all the live updates from the Capitol Hill, where the Prime Minister is expected to address a joint session of the Congress. And we will be reporting on what the Prime Minister tells the congressmen and women. Let's talk more about this visit by the Prime Minister Narendra Modi to the United States. And joining us now is our correspondent Jessica Stone. Jessica Stone is at the White House. Jessica, we do expect the Prime Minister to be hosted for a dinner by the President, Joe Biden, and the First Lady, Jill Biden. What are the plans that have been made so far by the White House?
Well, I can tell you I've actually gotten the opportunity to taste the food, which is absolutely unprecedented. Never in 15 years of covering the White House have I had an opportunity as part of a state dinner preview to taste the food. And guess what? It tastes amazing.
Right.
The main dish, of course, is vegetarian. Most of the dishes are vegetarian in honor of the Prime Minister. It's a stuffed mushroom with that's roasted with roasted squash and I believe there are leeks in it and roasted red peppers. It's paired with a saffron risotto, and there's also several nods in the meal to millet, because of course India has declared the year of the millet, and there is a roasted, or I believe marinated millet salad with compressed watermelon, and then they're pairing that with roasted corn from the state of Maryland. So I know that when I was at that preview, it was very interesting. Yes, lots of tasty things. Oh, I got to get to dessert, don't I? That is a little cookie of shortbread with fresh strawberries and an Indian flag curled candy ribbon next to an American flag curled candy ribbon on the side. So at every turn, we're going to see these very distinct, detailed flourishes of Indian-American cooperation down to the color scheme. For example, we expect during the speeches for both of these leaders that Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi will make his speech against a large image of a peacock, the state bird, and the American President Joe Biden will make his toast to Prime Minister Modi in front of the bald eagle, which of course is the symbol of the United States, its state bird. And there is a lot of color, which of course you would expect with the Indian Prime Minister in town. The main colors, saffron, green, verdant green, just like the two stripes of the flag, and blue. It's said that the First Lady, whose office plans this event, is a big fan of blue and green. That may be why you're seeing President Biden in blue and green today for the state visit. And so we will see them, I guess, about maybe 3 hours' time, receiving the Prime Minister here on the North Lawn at the front portico. They do a big ceremony. There literally will be a red carpet rolled out for the Prime Minister, and they will greet him there. But right now he's on Capitol Hill doing a ton of photo ops with members of Congress ahead of his speech, isn't he?
Yes, he is. And Jessica, probably you can tell us the significance of a state dinner when the President of the United States does actually host a president or a head of state or a leader from another country for a state dinner. What does that signify?
Well, it symbolizes very close ties, or the hopes of very close ties. And in this case, it's an honor. It's being called an official state visit. So this is normally extended to monarchs, heads of state, or as opposed to heads of government. In this case, it's being extended, of course, to a head of government. But it is a very high honor, really the highest ceremonial honor that the United States can extend to any leader. And it does come with accommodations. For example, Prime Minister Modi is staying across the street from the White House at the Blair House. So there's that extra benefit of being put up with the White House staff in close proximity to the U.S. president. You have special greetings on the South Lawn, which we've already seen this morning and again last night. And then we expect to see about 400 guests according to the White House tonight at the state dinner, and every detail is being thought of. The florals are saffron colors of different colors of saffron, yellow and orange, roses, peonies, dragon flowers, beautiful arrangements, very natural in nature, not very stiff and uptight. That's part of the First Lady's effort and influence, I'm told, by the First Lady's staff to have each tablescape essentially be its own. There is not a formula for each table, but they're each going to be dressed with deep shades of green or very pale shades of green, which of course is a nod to verdant fertility and growth, just as the Indian flag also has that deep green color on one of its bands. And yes, it's a high honor indeed, and I think you're going to see the level of people, the level of that to which so many Indian Americans have risen in this country as part of the close friendship between these two countries. And you'll see them coming through tonight. There's always plenty of camera action. They go before the cameras just between the East Wing and the West Wing of the White House, and you get to see everybody come through. It's going to be a fabulous time. All
right. This is a dinner that we will look out for. Jessica Stone live at the White House in Washington, D.C. Jessica, thank you very much. Let's talk more about this visit by the Indian Prime Minister to the United States. And joining us now is Derek Grossman. He's a senior defense analyst, and also he's going to talk about this visit by the Indian Prime Minister. Derek, welcome to WION The World is One, and it's good to see you. We had a conversation between the President of the United States, that is Joe Biden, and also the Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who gave a joint statement to the press, and they talked more about improving or bolstering ties between the United States and India. What do you think is a major takeaway of this visit by the Indian Prime Minister to the United States?
Well, thanks for having me. Yeah, I think it's an historic day. The administration has been signaling that this is a transformational moment, quote unquote, that the sky is the limit for the U.S.-India partnership, and they're trying to basically breathe that into reality today. Obviously, there's been a lot of focus on the U.S. bringing India in as a counter to China as part of its Indo-Pacific strategy. And that is certainly a significant part of what's going on here. But there are many other things that are on the agenda that speak to other issues that the U.S. and India can cooperate on and are cooperating on. And so I think that, all around, this is kind of a symbolic moment to show that the world's largest democracy in India and the world's oldest democracy in the United States are getting along very, very well, have a lot in common. There are some differences, some frictions, but those are put aside, at least for today and for the next couple of days.
Well, President Joe Biden says that India and the United States are both huge democracies. And talking about China, what do you think is the message that the United States is trying to send to China with this visit of the Prime Minister?
Yeah, I think the message is pretty clear that India is going to increase its security partnership with the United States and with other like-minded democratic countries. Let's not forget India is part of the Quad, so the U.S., India, as well as Japan and Australia involved in that multilateral grouping, right? And so the U.S. is certainly signaling to China that we have more friends than you do in the international system. And not only do we have more friends, but we have friends that are, frankly, within your neighborhood, within the Indo-Pacific, that can work together to counter China's rising assertiveness throughout the region, whether it's in the South China Sea or East China Sea or against Taiwan, or high in the Himalayas against India itself, right? And India has enormous, geostrategic value, not the least of which because it is on China's western flank. And so China has to pay attention to India in addition to paying attention to what's going on its eastern seaboard. Now, you could argue, and I've argued in the past, that rising rivalry between the U.S. and China is certainly not a good thing. And there comes a point where deterrence has diminishing returns. And, bringing India in this fashion, is a bit questionable, not just for India, but also for the United States. because now, China is going to feel really antagonized and is going to react in all sorts of ways that we would hope it wouldn't.
Well, Derek, you see, this visit is almost over. The Prime Minister of India is in the United States for only 4 days. He is going to address the Congress. He's actually at the Capitol Hill as we speak. Going forward, what do you think will be the significance of the Indian Prime Minister touring the United States? And apart from all the bilaterals and all the agreements that have been discussed, what do you think will be the merits of this visit?
Yeah, I think, well, obviously, Prime Minister Modi is giving a speech to the joint session of Congress. Now, this will be his second time doing that. So that in and of itself is an honor. There's only a handful of leaders, I believe 3 leaders in history, who have given an address to a joint session of Congress 2 times or more. So there is that. But also, as you say, touring around the United States, meeting with business leaders, the Artemis Accords, right? So increased U.S.-India cooperation in space. These are all things that, were frankly thought of as unthinkable even just a few years ago. And here we are in this moment. And so, and I think it also kind of, and I've written about this, and I think and the Biden administration's been talking about this as well. It kind of speaks to the fact that India is an emerging great power, and that India is finally starting to take its rightful place on the world stage. It is alongside, the U.S., China, and Russia. And then there are other countries as well that are coming up, and it is increasingly a multipolar environment. And that is exactly what India wants.
Right.
And that is exactly what India is getting, in my view.
Derek, before I let you go, very quickly, this is or was a very sensitive subject, but the President and the Prime Minister did address it. And this concerns the treatment of minorities and also the subject on religion when it comes to India. And we had the President of the United States saying that India and America respect the religious and religion and also press freedom, which are the basis of democracy. We also had the Indian Prime Minister saying and underlining that democracy is in our DNA, it runs in our system, it is in our constitution. There is no space for discrimination on the basis of caste, creed, or religion. What are your views concerning this statement?
Well, there's been a lot of debate about this for years now, right? Ever since the BJP got back in power in 2014, there are many human rights groups out there who would beg to differ with both President Biden and Prime Minister Modi's statement that you just read, that India is not necessarily doing all the right things when it comes to protecting religious minorities, specifically the largest minority of Muslims, the second largest population of Muslims worldwide who is living in India. And so, there are some serious concerns that certain sectors of the U.S. have, but obviously the Biden administration has made a decision in the interest versus values debate that interests are going to trump values, the interest primarily being that we need to deepen our cooperation with India in order to counter China. But I think that could be problematic in the future. When 2024 comes around, it's pretty clear Modi has the inside track. Right. And then thereafter, it looks like BJP is going to have a lock on elections for the foreseeable future. And so if we are concerned about a Hindu nationalist government ruling over, a persecuted minority and the Muslims, right, that is something that could affect our cooperation with India going forward. But today is a day in which we can kind of put aside those thoughts and think about, the real kind of possibilities, the real opportunities of the partnership going forward in the 21st century.
Right. I'm talking to a senior defense analyst. His name is Derek Grossman. Derek, thank you very much for all your inputs on WION World as One. We are waiting for the Indian Prime Minister to address the Congress in a short while from now. He has arrived at the Capitol Hill. He is set to address the Congress. This is the second time, like Derek mentioned, that head of state, and in this case, the Prime Minister Minister Narendra Modi is addressing the Congress at the Capitol Hill. So we are waiting for the Prime Minister to start his speech at the Congress in a short while from now. But